Oh, hey, we're recording. Nick, start us out. You always got something funny.
I don't even have a joke this time,
What?
man. I haven't thought of anything.
Nick, you are the joke.
All right, boom. All right, boys, what's up?
Great.
How you doing?
Good. I meant that with the most amount of love. I just absolutely, you crack me up so much.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. You don't have to try to like smooth it over and not hurt my feelings because you're right. I can be a joke, but we don't have any time today for jokes. We have to solve
we're talking
the
serious.
biggest problem in manufacturing today.
We hear it from every shop we talk to, every place I go. Labor, staffing, cannot find people, cannot find the right people, cannot retain the right people.
Yes,
People
exactly.
People issue, yes.
Who's this other guy talking here? We got Trevor. We got who else?
Myles.
Trevor and Myles. All right. So I'll just get right into it. We got two awesome guests that we've been hinting at, I don't know, like 10 episodes in a row. I feel like we're about to like actually launch what we've been talking about. And these two guys are a big part of it. So I'll start with how I met Trevor. Trevor was an engineering intern from Northern Illinois University at our company. Yeah. At Advanced Machine and Engineering, we brought you in and taught you how to tie your shoes and feed yourself and do all that kind of stuff. And
Thanks, Dad.
no, but after a while, like you just went through the company super fast. So you became like kind of second in command for one of our business units where we make this product that's a position and hold lock for actuators. And I was just loved working with you, dude. And you ended up moving away and finding another job, but our relationship stuck around and it was great. And so, I mean, I'll just say it. I've been trying to get you back
Nick,
ever
is
since
he
you
your
left.
one that got away?
And he is. He's my white buffalo.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but in this, like, hey, Trevor, come on back. You're like, hey, no, I'm really happy where I'm at, but you got to meet my buddy Myles. You got to see what we do. So, that brings us to Myles. Trevor, why don't you introduce Myles and kind of tell his story a little bit?
Sure. Oh, this is great. Okay. Well, I met Myles when I was 7 years old. No, I'm not going to go that granular. I've known Myles.
You have known each other for about.
You might have been like 5 or 6, man. We were playing basketball at an early age. So.
Yeah,
awesome.
I've known Myles like mostly my whole life. His sister was in my grade. He was a little bit older, like 1 year older, but we've known each other for a long time. Great camaraderie, great dude, and he came into the staffing world and kind of wanted to bring me along for the ride. And he owns Treetop Staffing, great company and great guy. And I don't know, Myles, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, why'd you want to bring Trevor into the thing you had going for you, man? Are you sure that's a good idea?
Sharp individual in the engineering realm. Yeah. So I've been in staffing since 2018. I worked for the large staffing industries of sorts, and several years into it, had an opportunity to build out another staffing agency with a couple counterparts. And then nearly 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to start my own agency and build it out the way that I had always envisioned to a degree. And I brought in subject matter experts in multiple lines of businesses. Trevor here, he leads our engineering division, and he's got over a decade, multitudes of years of hands-on real-world experience to correlate with the division that he's leading. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So you were working. We always talk about like big pharma, big ag. You were working for big staffing.
Big stuff.
Yeah.
And what were some of the things that caused you to want to go on your own?
Well, I learned a lot, but not to talk negatively about it, but there were just certain aspects of the work that I felt that could be better delivered, right? Or just a multitude of different variables that I saw could use fixing. And when you're in a large organization and you're the lower tier of individuals, it's not easy to make those specific changes, right? There's rules, regulations that they have in place within the organization.
You got to follow the chain of command. Yeah.
Yeah. There's multiple layers, right? And, my thought process is, you want to set your team up for success, and you want to set not only the organization up for success, you want to make sure you're setting your clients up for success. You want to ensure that you're setting your candidates up for success too, right? And the better you do that, the better off you're going to be, right? So my thought process is really put them at the forefront and ensure that you're setting each individual up for success. And in doing so, success for yourself happens as well. So
yeah, makes sense.
yeah.
Okay, so back to kind of like the full story. So Trevor introduces me to Myles, and he's like, "Look, I'm not coming back, but let's go find somebody." And we get to talking, and it's like, all right, well, I'll just say our story. I mean, we had Trevor on the podcast before. We'll have to remember what the episode was or put it.
Highest viewed episode. No, I'm just kidding.
Is it? But when we had you on, it was like talking about how we had this DIY approach, like many manufacturers do, and hey, we're gonna get like LinkedIn Recruiter, and by the way, it's like very expensive to get like the high level recruiting account. We're gonna get that, and we're gonna like find our own candidates because nobody gets our business the way we do, and that's pretty true. Like what is a machinist? Well, what kind of machine? Like what type of industries have you served? It's like very nuanced. I think especially in manufacturing, it's very nuanced. So we went from that approach to, after you had introduced me to Myles and what you do, I knew you knew our business because you had worked there and I know you. And so that's really why this started this, because I was like, he's going to get it, and then from there was the aha moment. And I think the first person I called about this was Mike. And then later we brought up the idea to Paul. This is before they were even like official partners. We've been kicking this around for a long time, but
that's right.
I mean, Mike, when I first brought it up to you, why don't you let me know kind of what your thoughts were, and like, does this make sense? And
I mean, I think getting involved in, I think we've already said it today, and labor, right? It's the biggest thing facing manufacturing, and we talk about it in a lot of ways. We talk about it through, leveraging latest technologies and automation and better tooling and work holding and all the things it takes to, be, as Al Whatmo puts it, the productivity gap, right? So we can be more productive with the resources we have, but we still need people. And, whether it's on the shop floor or, that's one of the things I think, we talk about when we talk about the labor gap, we think about people on the floor, but it's across the entire organization, right? If your organization is going to grow, you need sales, you need engineering, you need accounting, and you need people on the shop floor. It's the biggest threat, I think, to our industry. I think Paul would agree with that. I know Paul's got a lot of statistics that he's referenced over the years about it. And, this is something we are all faced with, and we do a lot of talking about it with increasing productivity of the people we have through technology. But we have to also answer the problem of more people, right?
Right. Because it's the people that's executing on that technology and managing it and delivering it and making sure it's working. And, Myles and Trevor, I really resonate with what you said about this sort of meaningful work you're doing to set up both sides for success, because, I certainly know firsthand, running my own shop and then talking to hundreds of others, like, labor is a serious constraint to growth when you cannot find it. And when you find the right person, if a person finds the right job, it's a beautiful, magical thing, right? And it really sucks when it's not great. So, especially, hiring people that don't work out, it's just so much churn, so much friction into the business that, when you put that extra care in to do it right the first time and really have success for both, it really is magical. Like, it's
I agree.
special.
I agree.
It's such a big part of our lives.
Yeah, I think the issue, tailing off that a little bit is, yes, there's obviously a people issue. You can't just find anyone off the street and plug them in. It sounds good because you're trying to get the bodies and throw the bodies at it, but the approach of, getting the right person, like you said the first time, Paul, And, it's magical and it works out and everyone's happy and it's going the right direction. And you're starting to see what else you can do with your business or, how it can operate or other directions you can take it. I mean, it's really the lifeblood to, growing.
Absolutely.
100%. I think so. We talk all the time. Anyone who's creating content in this space talks all the time about like the skills gap and the productivity gap. And then we talk about like needing to build awareness. So like we just did an episode of like young people need to learn about manufacturing and think it's a great career and all that. But here's the gap. You got like, let's build awareness and let's make the people we have more productive. But like, how do you hire people?
Right.
Like we don't talk about that enough. Like, how do you actually hire people? And I think one of the biggest things is, okay, we're not the only ones who know about the gap. This gap is huge. Someone who's a talented machinist or programmer or engineer or plant manager or whatever, all the roles that we're going to be hiring for, if they're good, they have a job.
Yep.
Right. They almost always have a job. So how do you hire somebody who's not looking for work, who doesn't have that green looking for work thing on their LinkedIn profile? Because when you take the DIY approach and you wait for someone to like go out, find your Indeed ad or whatever, and like tell you they want a job, like the guy you really want or the girl you really want has a job.
Yeah.
So how do you fix that?
Right.
Yeah, you can sit and wait and wish, like most people. I hope I make more sales next year. I just hope it falls through. You hope this resume comes through the door. It's not realistic. You need to go out and be aggressive, just like you would with a salesperson. You need a prospect. In recruiting, we're headhunting, we're prospecting for the right people and bringing it to the right person. Right.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
And Nick, to touch on what you're saying, when you had mentioned that the vast majority of the people that you're ideally looking for to fill that spot within your organization, they're in a full-time role, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I post up jobs, requisitions that we're working on, but typically speaking, I'm using that as a template for when I'm engaging and having conversations with those who have reached out, who I have personally reached out to. So I'd say 95, 98%, much higher, probably 98% of my hires are through headhunting as opposed to those who are actually applying to my positions.
Mm-hmm.
When I go out into the marketplace, I'm consolidating, I'm honing in on my search and I'm finding that exact individual or giving typically speaking, 2 to 3 options, but they're all going to be great fits for that hiring manager in mind, right? And in order to find that person, you have to do your due diligence, all of the work behind the scenes. But typically speaking, these individuals are in a full-time position and they're just not valued in their role, or they don't have an ability based off of the size, the organization, et cetera, to climb the company ladder to get to where they want to be at, right? Maybe they're stuck in a contributor role and they want to get to a lead or a supervisor or a management position, but it's just not there with the organization, right? And
look at yourself.
Sure.
I mean, you just talked about it. You were working for Big Staffing.
Sure.
They're doing a great job.
Okay, I met Myles
Big
when
Staffing
I
by
was 7
sucking
years
at
old.
it.
No, I'm not going to do that.
But you wanted to be more of that, influential. Hey, I want to bring in some of my ideas and some of my vision. And now you're not working for Big Staffing. You got your own thing.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I learned a lot. It was very valuable, right? But sometimes you got to spread your wings and take on a new endeavor, right? But with that being said, it's like so when I'm engaging with candidates, I go off of 4 pillars, right? Obviously, compensation is going to be a large component, right? Because employees, they need to be compensated in accordance to the value that they bring to an organization, right? They have options. And if you're not paying them accordingly, if they feel undervalued from a compensation standpoint, when those opportunities do become available to them, when they are presented, they're going to take them into consideration and likely leave if it's, very relatively speaking, the same type of work or a step up and there's a higher bump in compensation, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple variables though, not just that. That's one of the 4. I also go off of, the skill sets. Do they align with the expectations that are in place for this position, right? What are they doing from an operational day in and day out standpoint? Is that going to align with their expectations as well as the hiring manager's expectations, right? And then, of course, cultural fit. These people could have the best skill sets, be the best individual from an operational approach, but if they've got a very bad or headbutting, fit with the culture that you're going to be putting them into place with, like that's not going to be good for long-term success. So you want to make sure it's a cohesive fit from that realm as well, right?
Yeah, two-way fit for sure.
Yep. And then just the work-life balance. Does it align with what their expectations look like? Some of these roles are 100% on site. Hey, is that aligning with what they're ideally looking for? Some of these are hybrid based, some of them 100% remote. I mean, but you have to ask these questions. And if you as the middleman, it's amazing how transparent people will be with you, and they'll let you know, because they also know I've got a multitude of other roles that I could theoretically present to them in the future. So if they're not going to be a perfect fit for this role, but they're still a really strong candidate, hey, they're in my Rolodex. I'm going to keep them at the forefront for when opportunities that do align with all of their expectations come to fruition, right?
Yeah.
So before I present any candidate to any of our clients, I'm going to make sure that they fit the bill on all of those marks and then some, right? Because how else are you going to keep your top talent within your organization long term, right? We don't want churn and burn hires. I want long-term relationships here.
Yeah. I mean, the cost of churn and burn, like, I don't know if that's ever been like all the way quantified in some sort of research report, but
right.
golly, like, we talked about two things. I think Paul brought up like the cost of waiting to get that key person.
Yes.
And the opportunity cost there. And then the cost of like, okay, we hired somebody, they made it 9 months,
No, I'm just kidding.
1 year, and then now we have to start this whole process over again. Gosh, when you compare it to like the fee of a staffing company, what is it? Typically like 25% of the annual salary for the first year. It's like, yeah, that's money well spent, because if you get it wrong, which we've all done, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I've hired the wrong person before, right? Like, it's so much more expensive than it looks.
Right.
It's total cost of ownership perspective. You have to take all those into account. And like you said, if you do it grassroots, try to do it yourself, yeah, it might seem cheaper for, up to 4 hires or something of that nature. But, long term, you're probably wasting a lot of time that you could be doing something, growing your business in a different way.
As long as you value your time as zero.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it takes a lot of time to find the right person. So as long as you value that really low, like maybe you can say, okay, it's not worth it. But
sure,
if you start to like put, Paul's hourly rate, oh boy.
well, the other thing I think is worth talking about is that many business owners. We've talked about this, Mike, on your show about scaling, right? They're good at the technical craft of doing that business. They're not great at the running of it. They're probably also not great recruiters. They're probably not great at, interviewing and like making sure that's a good fit. And, I've never really thought about staffing much. And, the fact that, Trevor, you're an engineer, you're a mechanical engineer, and you are helping vet and look at those engineering staff to like really like peek under the cover. Does this relevant to this applicant, to this company? Right. And then having, other domain experts that really understand different areas of business, in finance or operations or whatever, and can, really vet probably a lot better than the business that is needing those people. Right.
Yeah.
They're not specialists in staffing.
It's a new philosophy in a world that's existed for a long time. It's something that needed to get updated. And this kind of approach, I think, is the new wave approach and the better, stronger approach for a more effective, staffing.
All right, Nick, I need your opinion. So
I got all sorts.
So everything I'm hearing is great here. How can we, other people who listen to this, how can we help them put the right butts in the right seats on the right bus to accomplish their goals?
I'm glad you asked, because that's like what this whole episode's about. So we've been hinting at this launch of this new service. We're going to get involved with Trevor and Myles. So you bought the domain right after I told you about this. What is it? Hire MFG Leaders.com. And so anyone who goes to hiremfgleaders.com is going to see what we're going to do about this. And what we're going to do about this is me, you, Paul, Myles, Trevor are going to connect these employers just like us with the talent that they need to grow their business. All the way back to the original meaning of making chips, we need to equip and inspire manufacturing leaders. We're going to do this with more than just content and advice and everything that we've been doing on the podcast. Like, we're actually going to be a part of this talent solution. And so they're not going to pay any more than what they would pay if they worked with a recruiter directly. These are kind of like, it's like realtor fees. These are kind of like standard industry rates that you pay for a headhunter. but they're going to get a lot more because they're going to get your perspective. They're going to get my perspective. They're going to get Paul's perspective.
I agree.
And even just saying that, it's so exciting because
the issue,
I'm a product manufacturer.
Yes, there's
obviously kind of OEM in the machine tool.
You can't just find anyone.
I come with a little bit of a different perspective than
because you're trying to
you
get the
do as a job shop. Contract manufacturer.
Getting the right person.
Paul's got,
and
a history as a job shop owner, but also like the pro shop, the technology, software background.
What else you can do with your business?
And what he's doing.
How it can operate or other.
So we're in different parts of the country. We bring a different angle, a different lens, and kind of like why Myles wanted to work with Trevor because he got that subject matter expertise. Now we have that subject matter expertise like exponentially more. And I'm so excited to start to see these opportunities come in from our podcast and just help these people because I know it works. It's worked for me, and I know we're going to be able to make these.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting opportunity for us to, help business owners find the right people. Paul referenced, where we've talked about lately how, lots of times you as an owner, as a leader, are the bottleneck, and you need that sales and marketing person or another programmer or something. And, so hopefully we can help them locate those people. But I think it's also super exciting for that person that's, I think people that listen to our shows are, they are manufacturing leaders, whether they own their shops or not, but in a lot of cases, maybe they want more than they currently have. This will also be a great opportunity for us to assist them finding other opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it is like a 2-directional thing here.
Yeah, you can
reach out to us if you're like, hey,
like most people. I hope I don't make more.
Really want to say this to anyone, but you guys, because I know like trust you.
Comes through the door.
But I'm looking for
realistic. You need to go.
I'm not loving
it, just like you would.
Or you've outgrown. Maybe you just outgrown.
We're headhunting. We're prospecting for the right people.
Yeah, well, exactly.
For the right person. Right.
Okay, cool. Well, we can receive that way. We'll connect you with these two guys and the process will start. Or what's probably going to happen a little bit more than that is like, holy cow, I need to hire 3, 4, 5 people. Can you guys help me? How does this work? So how does it work? Myles, Trevor, someone goes to hiremfgleaders.com and they say, okay, here's what I'm looking for. Kind of let's give them a preview into how this process will work.
Sure. Right. Yeah, I could take that, Myles. So we do an intake call with the client to understand their needs, their culture, what they're looking for, their region, what type of business they're in. Get to really know them, right? Understand them like you would, as deeply as you can. And then we will start the process of, typical recruiting, headhunting, where we're out there searching for the right people. And with all this knowledge that we've gotten from these intake calls, we find very targeted and very appropriate people for the seats. And then we do some sort of validation state with the team that's on here to really put it through the ringer and say, is this the right fit? Is this the right person? Do they have the right knowledge base? And with the wealth of knowledge and expertise we have from everyone here. And then that kicks out. And, what I say is a diamond, right? It's someone that's so pointed and you're not getting 50 resumes and this doesn't seem a fit. This doesn't seem a fit. You're going to get a lower volume, but you're going to get a higher quality. So your time spent on qualifying them and interviewing and all that type of process is also reduced. So you're getting this huge value chain that's condensed, but with through the filter of all this expertise and tribal knowledge that's here on the call.
Yeah, that's so valuable. I mean, we've hired hundreds of people over my career at my companies, and there's nothing more frustrating when you're doing it yourselves and you just post an ad and you're very explicit about the qualifications, and people send you resumes with not even remotely those qualifications. And it's just a waste of everyone's time to look at that, open it, discard it, say no, thank you. But
and that's what we were used to, honestly. Like, I've been in so many conversations where it's like, you should see this crap. Yeah. I can't even believe this made it to me. And that's not what I'm used to anymore. Now that I've been working with these guys, it's like typically about, I don't know, what would you say, guys? Like 3 to 5 at a time. You'll give us like 3 or 5 and you'll be like, look at these. Here's why we like them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And depending on the amount of hires that you need, right? Like, for example, if it's, 3 or 4 CNC machinists that you're looking to bring on with specific areas of expertise, well, then, we might be providing to you qualified candidates to the realm of 5 or 6, right? If it's just one specific hire that you need, right? I need a supplier quality engineer, right? I need one. I'm going to hone that search in. I'm not going to give you 10 resumes and just hope something sticks. That's a waste of your time. Do you want to interview 10 different candidates and maybe this one? No, I'm going to consolidate that. I'm going to hone in. I'm doing all my due diligence on the front end before I even start my search to ensure that I hit X, Y, and Z, everything that you specifically need in your ideal candidate.
Yeah, two-way
I
fit.
hone that search in. I find you the top 2 or 3 exact candidates. And then you have to make that decision once you've spoken, vetted, qualified these individuals yourself to say, okay, I like them all. I theoretically hire each of these individuals, but based off of my conversations, what's transpired to this point, I'd like to hire A candidate or B candidate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based off of how everything transpires. But that's the goal. I'm not here to waste anyone's time, right? Time is valuable, right? And at the end of the day, I want to ensure that we're getting the exact fit for you for long-term success on both ends, right? I'm here for long-term relationships and to see teams set up for success, to see these individuals grow within their career path, as well as have a team that's thriving as well. So that's how it's assessed.
That's the theme. It's the time is money is the kind of the theme of all of this too. So like the first time we get a resume or 2 or 3, we give you feedback right away. And then the next time it gets better, and it just always gets better. And then the longer we have a relationship, it gets better and better and better. Well, you're getting Mike, Nick, and Paul looking at these too.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume most people would probably want our take on it. If for whatever reason they don't have to take it from us. But like, we're going to be like, hey, I know that company. That's a great company. Or I know this person who knows that person. This is what they think.
Right.
That's kind of the benefit of this big network we've built is we're going to be just elevating the level of insight and fluency that they have with the candidates before they even get to the point where they're choosing between the 1, 2, or 3 that they like to starting that next step.
Our listener base is as broad as it is wide. And what kind of footprint are we looking at of where we can help people?
You have to take all those into account. And like you said, if you do it grassroots,
Nationwide.
try to do it yourself.
So we staff
it
from
might
nationwide
seem
standpoint.
cheaper for up to
if that's the
something
question you're asking from a foot.
Yeah.
Of course, we're based out of the Midwest, but I've made placements on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and everything in between. So we're not subjugated to one state, if you will. Just depends on what their specific needs are, and then we go from there. But we're a nationwide search firm.
Sure. But just in the U.S., to be clear, not up.
No, we can do Canada as well.
Okay.
If you're up north,
And we, you even have one client who's got like a branch in Europe that you helped with a little bit. So I remember asking you that question before.
Yes. Yeah,
but I think most of the people who will reach out to us will be, from the U.S.
speaking.
That's right.
It's going to be U.S. based, but.
Hey. But instead of just the location thing, when I first had this idea, it was for Hire MFGleaders.com. I was thinking more for like kind of leadership positions and management positions, and typically kind of centered around our audience. And then the more I got to know you guys, you're like, yeah, absolutely. But also we can find you a great machinist,
Oh yeah, absolutely. So whether it's
integral to your business, we're here to help because again, we're that tool, right? We know there's a problem. There's tools out there. We're the tool to help bridge that gap a little bit.
You are a tool, Trevor, for sure.
It's a new
I've always thought that.
I was waiting for that. It's something we need to get
up there, Trust.
It's kind of approach. That's why. Use me. That's why I'm strong.
No, Nick, spot on, man. Whether it's a contributor-based position, right, or if it's a supervisor or a lead, management, director, we can handle that. And we also do executive search firm for C-suite individuals as well. So,
and that's where I think we're going to actually see more interest than maybe I originally thought. We talk all the time about this like aging out, Mike, you on By the Numbers, and Paul, us.
Oh.
So no, I'm saying on By the Numbers, you talk about all these people who are trying to figure out what the hell do I do with this company? I don't want to do this until I'm 80 years old. And so this is one of the ways we can help. We can help you find the next president.
Critical.
Sure.
So you're not running a company when you're as old as Mike.
You still got it in there.
Over the hill manufacturing.
Over the hill manufacturing. I love it, Paul.
That's your joke. Just recycling.
I am the joke.
That's right. Yeah.
No, there's one thing I wanted to touch on too, because I just think we hinted at it earlier, but the using a headhunter staffing company helps you get through the process so much more effectively, because one of you said it earlier, like they say stuff to you that they probably wouldn't say to me as the one trying to hire them, right? Like this is my family business. You know, Paul's the founder of Pro Shop. Like if he's looking for somebody and they don't want to say maybe what they would say to this middle man to the actual person who is gonna be their employer, because it's like, you know, sometimes the compensation subject is a bit hard to figure out. The culture subject's a bit hard to figure out. You're like, you know, is this person obviously wants to hire me? Are they spinning things, you know, or is this what it's really like? And I think you guys, you don't want to place people just to place people. You really want long-term fit. So you're just going to be in a better position to kind of get more of a candid communication going, you know?
Yeah, Nick, that's exactly it. Quite frankly, when I'm having these conversations, of course, I want to make sure we're touching on all the specifics that a candidate ideally needs. But I mean, the conversations that we have, I mean, they go all about. I talked to a candidate yesterday who was telling me about how much he loves to read, and I got 2 great book recommendations from him that I wrote down. And he's got his own. He and his wife have their own library that they're essentially building. And you can Google check me on this, but fact check me. But apparently, you need at least 1,000 books to be qualified as your own in-home library. Okay, that's like the qualifications. That he's at 1,200 now, and he's a young guy. Like he's a young guy, but he's just super sharp, and he loves what he does. And and a lot of the topics that we even talked about, he's telling me about nuclear physics. And he's a supplier quality engineer individual, but he's just very well rounded. And it's like, okay, he's just a great all around guy, but he's also very sharp at what he does. But then outside of work, he does X, Y, and Z. Well, what happens if it just so happens to be the case that his manager absolutely loves to read too, and they're going to hit it off from that standpoint, as well as the actual work that needs to be involved. And I'm just taking all of these different types of things into consideration when I'm presenting candidates. So obviously they don't have to have 1,000 books, but it's just one of many.
We're going to have a minimum quantity of books before you can bring a candidate to.
Yeah. That's one of the qualifications for the role, but it's amazing. And you learn so much about so many different people from all walks of life. And the better you get to know individuals, the better you're going to be able to guide them and help them in their career path. Because I don't want to present people to the wrong opportunities that aren't going to align with what their ideal expectations look like, right?
Sure.
My goal, and this is what I do for a career, right, is to set people up for success. And the better you know the individual from an all-around standpoint, the better you're going to be in guiding them and helping them in that pursuit. So.
Yeah. And I think some of the stuff, like 2 people who love to read are going to talk about that just fine. You know, that's not going to be the hard part of their communication. But when you're trying to talk about what you're willing to pay for a role, and it's different based on the candidate and their qualifications, and it's, I mean, you're talking about somebody's value to you, really, at the end of the day, and what they're worth as an employer, a prospective employee, and that's really hard to talk about sometimes when the person's right in front of you. Or right on the other end of the Zoom call or the phone or whatever. But you guys can kind of do that, you know, on both sides.
Big time. And we have all of those conversations as well, right? And sometimes they're difficult for hiring managers to kind of pick and figure out, because it's like, well, yeah, sure, they might take your offer if you give them a compensation that's a little bit lower than their expectations based off of what their current situation is. But man, I want to make sure that it's meeting, if not exceeding, all of their expectations and then some from both sides, right?
Because otherwise they'll take your offer until a better one comes around.
Sure,
and now
exactly.
you've got that.
This is what creates that long-term value, that two-way fit.
And that's counterintuitive to the long-term relationship. Like, you don't want to do that. So that's why we vet and we ask those specific questions too, from a compensation standpoint, to gauge, hey, what does that look like? Okay. Because sometimes there are candidates who they may want an extra 10,000 or 15 or whatever the case might be. And hey, I appreciate that transparency based off of the budget requirements that we have in place for this position. It's going to be a little bit outside of your expectations, but hey, let's keep in touch, because when those opportunities do arise, I already know X, Y, and Z of all the skill sets, capabilities, what you're looking for. I'm going to be reaching back out to that individual when that opportunity arises, right? And I'm never going to I'm not going to push anybody into a position that's less than ideal. Just you can't do that.
And that's key.
That's why you
key.
have to have those transparent conversations with the candidates that you're working with, right?
Yeah.
And same thing with the clients too, for that matter. But yeah, that's just how we run business. So
I like it. Yeah. I mean, we tried it the other way with my business, and then I started working with you guys who are clearly very specialized. And I thought it was a better thing. We made a few hires, we made them quick. We did not have to go through 15, 20 terrible resumes of like, how did this even come in front of me? And so it's just getting better. And it's like, whenever something's working for me, I want to share it with the community we've built on making chips. And I know Paul and Mike feel the same way.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. It reminds me, there's a couple of manufacturing specific marketing companies out there, right? Like Emily at Marketing Metal, and they know the lingo, they know the terms, they know what so they can do a much better job for a manufacturing company, a job shop, for example, than a generic firm might. And just like this, you guys specializing in manufacturing and engineering and having the talent of this crew to be able to vet, it's just going to be far more relevant. Than
these guys, and then us too, like being a part of it. Because we're going to be involved. We're not going to be doing the heavy lifting of recruiting. We got our businesses to run, and we got to keep recording these podcasts. But we're going to take a look and be like, hey, if it were me, these 2 or 3 jump out the most, and here's why. And then we're going to be like, hey, how's it going for you? Gary from ABC Machine, like, how's it going so far? You liking the candidates? Like, we'll be touching base on both sides too. So just to make sure they're getting the value. And gosh, I'm so pumped about this. I really am.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited.
Awesome.
All right, Mike, you bought the domain. So one more time, how do people reach out, learn more about this new service we're offering, and ultimately, request some help too?
Yeah. So we're launching a great new website, hiremfgleaders.com. And so go there, fill out your information. That'll get it to all of us and to Trevor and Myles, and get the process started.
You'll hear from us right away. And then we'll do that intake call thing that Trevor and Myles are doing. They'll do their thing, and we'll just be involved throughout the entire process. So super pumped about it. Actually, this episode's launching either on Valentine's Day or playing matchmaker here. You kind of look like Cupid over there, Mike. I got to say.
I'll get my bow and arrow out.
Paul, how do we end the show, man?
Well, if you can't find the right people, you're not going to be making chips. And if you're not making chips,
you're not making money. Bam.